Hello everyone, TimeToGrind here, and 2022 has been an amazing year for gaming. Obviously there's been a couple good AAA games, but in particular, indie gaming has continued to pop off. And as most of you guys know, I tend to cover more indie games than I do big giant blockbuster AAA games, so I know a lot of you guys might be expecting things like God of War or Elden Ring, and I'm sure those are fantastic games, but I wanted to focus on the top 11 games that I personally played this year, and as I play a ton of indie games, that's going to take over most of this list. Plus, most of the AAA games I did play this year were fun, but nowhere near what I would consider the top 11 games. Things like Modern Warfare 2, fun game, still don't think it fits anywhere up here. Same thing with Pokemon Violet and Scarlet, fun games, but absolutely embarrassing graphics and performance. Also, I do play a lot of roguelikes on my channel, so there'll be some of those games on this list, but I'm going to make a separate top 11 roguelikes and roguelites of 2022 video as well, so check that one out after this if you want to hear me go even deeper on those games than I do in this video. And last housekeeping thing, I'm only including games that have officially come out this year, so games like Peglin or Soulstone Survivors aren't going to be on this list because they just haven't officially come out. Just something I kind of always do with these lists. So without further ado, I want to give you guys my top 11 games of the year. And why am I doing a top 11 instead of a top 10? Because I can, and I couldn't figure out which games to cut if it was going to be a top 10. So my 11th favorite game that came out this year was Marvel Snap. I have always been addicted to card games ever since I started playing Magic the Gathering as a kid. Over the years, I got addicted to Hearthstone, Eternal, Magic Arena, and a million other niche indie card games like Faeria, Duelist, and Infinity Wars, and when the auto chess craze started happening, I got addicted to those, but the second Marvel Snap came out a couple of months ago, I tried it and I have been hooked ever since. It's a mobile game, but also on PC with a full widescreen version coming in the next couple months. But Marvel Snap is just really the ultimate card game for me. If any of you guys have ever played the game Smash Up, it's kind of like that. You create a deck of 12 Marvel characters, and each match only has 6 turns, having you place cards on 3 random locations that all do quirky things. After turn 6, whoever's winning a majority of the locations wins. And all the different strats and decks you can build with the cards are super fun, and the fact that every single game you play is different because you don't know what 3 locations you're going to be fighting for control over, it just never gets old. It's also got a really cool MMR system where you start out each match only betting like 1 MMR, but either player can snap to double the MMR you're actually gambling, and then on the final turn it doubles it as well, and so considering these are just kind of like 2 to 3 minute matches, it can get addicting really fast. Combine that with a decent payment model that focuses more on cosmetics and upgrading the way your cards look than opening up like a million packs and you have a winner. It does get a little bit grindy once you've probably put in over 50 hours to get some of the more rare cards, and some of the cosmetic bundles are absolutely outrageously overpriced, but this is a super promising game that any card game fanatic should absolutely try. At number 10 on my list, I have Cult of the Lamb, and I gotta say, Cult of the Lamb is one of the most fun experiences I have ever had as a streamer. This game has the best Twitch integration of any single game I've played, period, and so that might have skewed why I liked this game so much. To be fair, I think it's a fantastic game, and I know a lot of people agree with me, so if you don't know, Cult of the Lamb is half an action roguelike like Binding of Isaac or something like that, and half an Animal Crossing cult simulator. The art style is just super unique and gorgeous, and you play as a cult leader, Lamb, and you slowly build up a village of cultists that feel like actual people. They have their own needs, wants, traits, looks, and so half the time you're giving sermons, building infrastructure for your cult, dealing with the problems of your cultists, and then half the time you go venture out into the crazy wilderness to try and defeat bosses, get materials, and progress the story. The game took me around 12 hours to beat, beat, and I personally don't think it has a ton of replayability, but the experience I got streaming this game was an experience I won't forget. All of the cultists in my game were actual viewers from my streams who could customize their own characters using Twitch integration, so they grew attached to their characters, and when funny drama came up like me sacrificing my viewers, it just meant so much more because each of my characters were tied to actual viewers. And also my viewers could help donate channel points to pray to an altar to give our cult more bonuses. It was just such a fun experience, and if you want to see our playthrough, I'm going to link my Let's Play series in the description down below. And like almost all the entries on this list, I probably have a whole series for the game, so if something piques your interest, definitely check out the description down below. We do a bunch of fun stuff on this channel year-round, even when we aren't doing our top 11 videos, so definitely subscribe. At number 9 on my list, we have Dome Keeper, and Dome Keeper is just one of the most unique and refreshing roguelikes I have played in a long time. It doesn't feel like it's just taking another roguelike and putting its own spin on it, but instead it feels like its own unique game and provides something you can't really find in any other game. So in Dome Keeper, you land on an alien planet and you have to protect your glass dome from all sorts of alien monsters coming to try and destroy your dome and kill you. So you use lasers or swords or cool gadgets to protect your dome, and in between waves you actually have to mine the planet you're on. There's 3 main types of resources you have to look for, and you have to make sure to get back to your dome in time for the next wave to spawn. And there are a ton of upgrades you're going to need in order to scale to the late game, and there are a ton of different game modes and unlocks and little cosmetic secrets to find, and it's just such a refreshing blast to play. The constant flow between relaxing mining to nail-biting action as your glass dome is about to get destroyed is just so amazing, and the art style and soundtrack is just the cherry on top. Number 8 on my list is a pretty unique game, I gotta say. You Snail is a platforming game where an evil AI predicts your movement and purposely tries to screw with you all while taunting you. So the gameplay is kind of similar to something like Geometry Dash, but with way more control in most of the platforming segments and a lot more variety, and it's way more of a story game. It only took me a little over 4 hours to beat the game and find some secrets, but they're adding new levels and a level editor soon. But even though it's so short, it's just such a freaking cool experience. The story is about an AI that kind of becomes evil and takes over, and the AI that is constantly screwing with you in the game actually speaks and has full voice acting, and there's thousands of voice lines, so I never really heard duplicates. It truly feels like this is an AI and it's sentient, because obviously it's not. It's just a bunch of voice lines tricking you into thinking it's an AI. But you know, it's absolutely crazy. It seems like it's understanding what you're going through as it's messing you up and just taunting you. It almost reminds me a little bit like GLaDOS from Portal. There's also a bunch of fourth wall breaking stuff, and the story deals with things like simulations, the universe, and just a bunch of crazy topics. It's definitely the type of game you just have to play for yourself, and you definitely should. Across the Obelisk takes number 7 on my list. It's honestly one of the best multiplayer roguelites I have ever played. I'm not going to go too in-depth into how this game works, as I'll save that for my top 11 roguelikes and roguelites video of 2022, but overall, Across the Obelisk is a roguelite deck builder that has 4-player co-op if you want. There are 4 different classes and a bunch of different characters, and you can either play solo, controlling 4 characters, or you can play with some friends. So my friends and I have recorded over 70 videos so far just on my channel, all playing as, you know, 1 character each and just having an absolute blast. There's so many different characters and so many new characters to unlock and level up and pets to unlock across multiple playthroughs. There's cool drafting modes, and just there's so much content in this game. This is the type of game you could easily play with your friends for hundreds of hours, and if you're a fan of roguelike deck builders or just want something fun to play with your friends, Across the Obelisk is definitely the play.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Number 6 on my list is the one and only Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe. And if you have never heard of the Stanley Parable or the Beginner's Guide, you need to honestly stop this video right now and download them and play them both. They are both absolutely incredible walking simulators that are truly special. But while the Beginner's Guide is only about like an hour and a half and it's very, very linear, but still an amazing game and something that I need to replay on my channel soon, the Stanley Parable was originally a Half-Life 2 mod that got turned into its own game. It's a game that's extremely fourth wall breaking and super non-linear, and a game that has a crap ton of different endings. And so the game was always about trying to replay it over and over and to listen to all the hilarious meta commentary and fourth wall breaking moments and to try and get all the endings. And the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe is an even more amazing experience than the original. I don't want to spoil too much, so if you don't want to hear any more, if you haven't played the game or haven't seen someone play it, please skip to the next part in the video. There'll be timestamps in the description down below. For real, I'm saying, if you have not played the game or watched it, you are not allowed to watch this part. I'm promising. Like, do not skip, okay? So 3, 2, 1. Okay, for real, you better have played the game or watched someone play it if you're listening to me right now. But either way, the big spoil of the game is that this is actually a sequel to Stanley Parable, but it's disguised as a remake. So it kind of contains a lot of the old content while adding so much more. And it introduces it in just a super meta fourth wall breaking way that you can only expect from the Stanley Parable. And I have not experienced a game do anything like this ever, and it blew my freaking mind. It also is one of the main reasons, if you ever see anyone on my channel calling me Jim, there's a whole kind of backstory to that from our original Stanley the Parable series, or yeah, Stanley Parable series. So it's really special in my book. Plus, Kevin Brighting is just the best narrator that exists on this planet and makes this game so much better.
Wait, how did you do that?
Number 5 on my list is Rogue Legacy 2, and this game is one of my favorite roguelites that came out this year, and honestly that's just come out in a while. The original Rogue Legacy was one of the first roguelites I got into as a literal child, and it was just super revolutionary, and Rogue Legacy 2 is everything I could have asked for in a sequel. Rogue Legacy 2 is an action roguelite similar to Dead Cells, but I'd say the gameplay feels a bit more like Hollow Knight. It's very distinct, and if you've played, something like Hollow Knight or the original Rogue Legacy, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But it's a game where you keep adventuring into a castle with crazy adventurers, and whenever you die, you select who your heir is going to be out of several different randomly created heroes that can have different classes, different special abilities and traits, and the game loves to get quirky with all of these mechanics as well. So you could have a character that suffers from synesthesia, so all the movement in the game leaves color trails, or you could be colorblind and see the game in black and white. And every time you die, you also get to spend the gold you got in your last run to upgrade a giant skill tree in the shape of a castle to unlock new classes, upgrade your characters, and just do a bunch of quirky new stuff. And there's a bunch of different types of progression in the game as well. And this is, in my opinion, just one of the perfect examples of a good grindy roguelite. There are hundreds of levels of New Game Plus. You always feel like you're making progress even when you lose your runs, and it just has hundreds and hundreds of hours of replayability. Definitely something you should pick up if you want some action-packed grindy goodness. At number 4 on my list, we have Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. Just kidding. Instead of that, we actually have a really good monster taming game. And don't get me wrong, I liked Pokemon Violet. It's just not everything I wanted as a big Pokemon fan. But TemTem, on the other hand, is truly, in my opinion, every Pokemon fan's dream game, or at least it should be. It's a monster taming MMO that truly feels like it was made by fans of Pokemon that grew up and set out to make the dream Pokemon game they always wanted to play. There is probably over 100 hours of main game story content, plus tons of endgame content like the ability to control your own gyms or dojos, own your own house, there's clan wars, raids, and the core gameplay just feels so much more strategic than Pokemon. All the battles are double battles, and there are synergies you can can get between certain TemTem and their move types. There's a stamina system in battles, and the game is just overall a lot harder than the actual Pokemon games, and the story is a lot more mature as well. I mean, where I'm at right now in the story, there's literal terrorists bombing civilians, they're cursing people out. I mean, it's a lot. And all for $45, which is cheaper than Pokemon Violet and Scarlet. And I know some, true Pokemon fans always hate to try these types of games because they just really like the designs of Pokemon, and I'm one of those people, but let me just say, this game has its own amazing, unique art style, and you will grow to love most, if not all, of the TemTem. Definitely something you should really check out, especially if you're one of those people that have been itching for a true, amazing Pokemon experience that you haven't gotten recently or in a long time. We're at number 3, and things are definitely going to start heating up. So for number 3, we have Vampire Survivors. And this is just, in my opinion, one of the biggest indie games of the year. Even if you don't play roguelites, you probably heard about Vampire Survivors. Vampire Survivors is a game that takes inspiration off an older mobile game called Magic Survival. And the premise is simple. You just mow down thousands and thousands and thousands of monsters, all trying to take you down. And the game got so big, it kind of created its own genre of games that people are calling bullet heavens. So in contrast to bullet hells, which consist of you dodging a million bullets, because in this game, you are what's firing a million bullets and you're killing thousands and thousands of enemies. And the pure dopamine you get out of playing these games is insane. Vampire Survivors has already started to spawn a million clones in the genre. Some of them are pretty promising, like Brotato or Soulstone Survivors, but Vampire Survivors, in my opinion, is still the absolute #1 bullet heaven game, and that's for one main reason: the progression. There are so many achievements that guide you through unlocking all the content in the game. There's over 70 hours of progression between new characters, weapons, secrets, and more secrets to find. I mean, the game is just so good at keeping you interested by providing a never-ending list of things to do. I kind of compare it to the progression in Binding of Isaac. That's always been one of the best parts of that game and what keeps you playing for hundreds of hours, and this is no different. Plus, with the newest DLC, Legacy of the Moonspell, the game really showed to me the future of this game is just going to be getting better and better and better. Rogue Legacy 2 is actually going to be higher on this list than Vampire Survivors until I played the newest DLC, and it just really blew my mind. And on top of all of this, the game and the DLC cost $7 total or free on mobile, so there's not really an excuse to play one of the best games of the year right now. And number 2 on this list is a game that I bet is not on many other people's top 10 lists, or even a game that most people know exists. Islets is a short 8-hour Metroidvania that is just so absolutely gorgeous and so freaking wholesome and hilarious at the same time. It's made by one of my favorite indie devs of all time, someone named Kyle Thompson, who previously made a game called Sheepo, which was an even smaller wholesome Metroidvania, but where that felt more like a short little experience, Islets feels like a whole complete game, even though it's on the shorter side. The game has a super unique mechanic for a Metroidvania of taking place on fragmented islands that used to be together. So your goal is to reunite all of the fragmented islands, literally combining the maps together and opening up new parts of the map, secrets to find, stereotypical Metroidvania stuff, and just, a bunch more. And the art style, story, characters, and just everything about this game are just so freaking charming. I can't really explain why this game touched me as much as it did, but it's a perfect game. There's nothing I would change about it, besides maybe have it be longer. There's nothing really more, beyond that I can say. You need to play this game, or at least watch someone play it, because it truly is one of those games I'd consider that's a piece of art. And my overall top game of 2022 is Stray. And Stray was not something I was expecting to impact me as much as it did. Stray is that cyberpunk cat game that the entire internet was talking about earlier this year. And I truly think that all the attention it got was totally well deserved. The game takes place in a post-apocalyptic cyberpunk world where robots still exist and have created their own civilization, and humanity has died out, and you play as a cat. And so it starts out as this adorable, cute game with you playing with your other cat friends and just, going on a little adventure and stuff like that. And early on, you fall literally and figuratively into this entire grand cyberpunk story that has so many twists and turns. It just truly feels like a living world. And I gotta say, the game does a really good job at making you feel like a cat. There's a dedicated meow button and everything. But it's so much more than a gimmick. It's hard to explain, but the world building and details in this game just truly create an experience that I think is greater than the sum of its parts. There might be some slight bugs or janky parts that I had to deal with, but it all comes together to tell a surprisingly believable story that's almost like Alice in the Wonderland. You just keep going deeper and deeper down this rabbit hole until you finally reach the conclusion of the story. And I don't know if we'll ever get a sequel to this game, but I really, really hope we do, because I just want to see so much more about this world, because it was such a fun and awesome experience. Plus, we played it all in one sitting on stream since it was so much fun, and that kind of elevated the whole experience for me. So there you have it. Those are my top 11 games of the year. There were so many games I wanted to include, like things like Stacklands and the new Lego Star Wars game, but there were just too many good games coming out. And like I say, every time I hear someone complaining about there not being any good new games coming out, you just gotta look inwards towards the indie game market, and you will find so many good games, though I'm sure I'm preaching to the choir on that one. And if you haven't seen my top 11 roguelikes and roguelites video of 2022, then definitely check that video out. It'll come out a day after this one and will be on screen right now. And if you want to see us play any of the games I talked about, check the description down below for all of the playlists. And let me know in the comments down below some of your favorite games that came out this year. I hope you guys had a good 2022, and here's to 2023 being a good year. Sending all you guys all my energy.